Hello my crafty friends and welcome back to another Mixed Media Tuesday. Today I'm going to create a one-page layout on my Dina Weekly Blue Big Journal. This is about 8 by 10 in size. It is quite big and I did share many projects as I was going through this journal. The fun about this journal is that it includes different types of pages. So I picked one that I'm going to work with today. This is heavyweight cotton paper and it has a lovely texture on top of it. You will see that in the close-up photos at the end. So I'm going to add some paper towel in between my projects so that I don't make a mess. And I'm going to play with my sprays again today. I want a vibrant result, that's why I'm going with my Dylusion sprays. And the inspiration for today's project came from this stamp set. This has a lovely design with two fish and a lovely background. You can work with this stamp for a long card if you like, but I am going to turn it into an art journal page. Now this is a stamp by Studio Light that I had from before my holidays and I was planning to play with it, so this is the day. Now I want to have some dimension at the background, that's why before I start with sprays, I'm going to do some stenciling. This is one of my essential stencils that I used in a previous video as well, and I like all those textures here. I decided to go just with the circles. Since I'm going for an underwater scene with the fish, I decided that this would look great at the background. They kind of remind me of bubbles. So I'm going to add in different spots those two circles, and I'm using embossing paste. This is by Altenew, but anyone that you have would work just fine for that. I always like to work with embossing paste or modeling paste that it is quite thick. The thicker it is, the best result. It's not going to seep underneath your stencil and give you bad results. Now of course this is white on white, so you can't really tell what I'm doing, but trust me, they are going to appear like magic when I apply the color on top. And now it's time to add spraying. First I'm using my water bottle and I'm going to dump the page. This is going to help the colors later on to blend better. And I'm going with Dylusions because I want to have a lovely vibrant color. You can see how vibrant these are compared to the oxide sprays that I usually play with when I want to have a more vintage look and feel. And I'm combining Calypso Teal, which is a shimmer spray, with vibrant Turquoise, which is a normal ink spray. Don't be afraid to mix up the colors that you have. They do work together just fine, and by adding that shimmer, I do have some shine on the page, which is really hard to catch on camera, but trust me, it's there. Now I'm going to use my paper towel and just pick up that extra paint that I have on the spine. And then with that paper towel, I'm going over the background. This is going to remove some of the paint, and it's going to create more variation at the background, add more interest, since I will end up with darker and lighter areas. And here is where I really liked that look, so I'm going again with a clean paper towel to remove even more before it dries. So I'm really happy with the variation and the lighter color at the center. And now it's time to go with my favorite techniques for the background. First of all, I'm going to do some stamping. This is a stamp set that I have been using a lot last year. You can see how stained it is and it is well loved. You have seen me using it a lot. And I'm going with pigmenting this time instead of my normal Archival Ink because I want to have quite of a vibrant stamping at the background. This is something that I don't normally do as I want my background to be quite subtle, but I'm going for a vibrant page today, so I'm just going to play with that. I'm stamping with these text stamps mainly on the edges, creating kind of a frame. Now also keep in mind that this page is quite rough, it has texture, so it is quite difficult to stamp perfectly, which is an advantage in my case since I don't want to have perfect stamping when it comes to backgrounds. So I'm going to move through these different text stamps and switch them up. And then another way to add some interest on the background and also some different texture is to use washi tape. This is washi tape that I have again from last year. This is by AALL Create, very versatile since it's just black and white and would go great for any project. I'm going to show you how I like to use them. I like to tear them in half. This way I end up with a more organic look. and I'm going to mix them up with black and white, one on top of the other. Both of these washi tapes do have words and numbers on top. I don't care if they are upside down as I stick them down on my page. I'm just working with them as if they are texture elements. So just play with them in any direction, they don't have to be readable. And at the end I'm just making sure that I have nice and clean edges and I can move on to the next technique. Oh, and before that, if you find that some of the washi tape doesn't stick down as nicely as you want, you can always go ahead and add a touch of glue underneath to make sure it's going to stay put. Another one of my go-to techniques when it comes to backgrounds is to add some splashes, white splashes on top of it. So here I'm using my paint. This is white paint in a spray form by Dina Wakley, the white spray. It's not going to stay as vibrant and white as it looks at the moment. This is going to blend somehow with the sprays underneath. Remember, the spray isn't permanent, so it's always going to react with whatever you put on top. Now I'm really happy with the background. I'm going to move on and do my stamping to work on the focal points. So I'm going to stamp this on watercolor paper. I decided to work with the Dylusion sprays to color the images, but in any case, when you are creating focal points, you can use any medium that you like to color them in. I decided to go with watercoloring. If you want, you can stamp it with alcohol, marker-friendly ink and color it in with your alcohol markers. I'm not going to use it as a whole. I'm going to fuzzy cut only the fish so that I can use only them as my focal point. And since I do have my stamping platform out, I'm going to do some more stamping. I want to add some extra elements, fun elements around the page. So for that I'm going to use this generic stamp set that has many elements that can be used again and again as patterns on a background. I'm going with the bubbles that have text inside. I'm going to use a bunch of them so that I can stamp them again and again and have many for the finished page. I don't know how many I'm going to use at this stage, so I always like to have more to play around. Again, I'm going to stamp them on watercolor paper, just some scrap pieces that I had from the previous stamping. And for that I'm going with Archival Ink just because it is permanent and I know that when I use my watercolors on top, they're not going to smudge or smear that black ink. So here I am, I have fuzzy cut all the bubbles and the fish. I'm not going to lie, cutting out the fish was not easy. They are quite difficult, but it is something that I like to do and it is really relaxing for me. So now it is time to color everything. For that I'm going to work with the Dylusions sprays. I'm going to use them as if they are watercolors. So I'm going to apply a blob on top of my craft mat and use an orange and a yellow. I'm doing really quick coloring. First I'm going to apply the lighter shade of yellow all over the fish. Again, remember I'm working on watercolor paper so they are easy to blend together. And then I'm going to add some shading with the orange shade. Just here and there, really quick coloring. It's going to look stunning when you place it on top of the bluish background, so don't really pay too much attention on the details. Also remember, this is mixed media, so don't be afraid to mix up different mediums together. So here I'm just deepening up some shadows by using Distress ink. I'm super happy with how they look and I absolutely love their gorgeous tail. So now it's time to place them on top of my project and you can see how vibrant they look on top of this beautiful background. I'm sticking them down using my white glue. Don't ask me why, that was what glue I just happened to have on my craft room. Anything would work here. Just make sure that if you apply matte medium, you don't make a mess at the background because matte medium and water may move that beautiful background that you have achieved up to now. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next step. I am playing with the bubbles. I'm just placing them here and there, trying to decide where they are pleasing to the eye. Once I'm happy with that, I will stick them down. Again, by using my white glue, notice that the way that I am sticking them down is creating kind of clusters, so they are just not floating all over the place. I'm kind of sticking them next to the washi tape to create different areas of interest. And I'm going to add some color on those bubbles as well, just on one side to make them look dimensional and to help them blend more with the background. This is the Calypso Teal Shimmer Spray, which I actually used for the background. And of course I have to grab my white gel pen and add the highlights that I always like to add on my focal points. To tell you the truth, I overdid it with white lines here, but it makes me happy, so it doesn't matter if I don't know when to stop. I'm using my gel pen to add some bubbles coming out of the fish. And I'm really happy with how it looks. Now it's time to add my motivational quote. This is something that I always like to add on my pages. For that I'm going with relax, nothing is under control. I'm stamping letter by letter the word relax in a lovely script alphabet stamp set that I have. I keep on using it for ages. It's by Concord & Ninth and it's one of my most used in my art journals. Of course you can write it down with your marker. Now for the rest of the phrase I'm going to write it down with my label maker. This is something that I lately do just because it is quick. Remember, however, that this is going to turn out quite shiny. You can always print it out with your printer and cut thin strips of the phrases and stick them down on your journals. I usually like to cut the phrase in smaller pieces and always keep it quite thin, and I like to kind of nest it somehow in the bigger word, which is relax in this case. I'm also going to outline it, add some highlights, and I'm going to call this page done. Here are a few close-up photos where you can see the details better. Hopefully you can see that beautiful texture of the page. Just like always, you will find down below a full list of all the supplies that I used to create this layout. I hope that this video was helpful, that you had fun and that you got inspired. If you did, don't forget to leave me a comment and hit the like button. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.